In the old days, in the old days, there was a warrior who had a best friend. This best friend of his was a dog. He named him Taz. These two went everywhere together. They were inseparable. But as time would have it, this warrior would get called off to war from time to time, and the dog would follow him out of the castle, out into the courtyard, past the threshold, to the crossroads, and he would leave Taz at the crossroads to go off for war. And no matter if he was gone for a month, 3 months, 6 months, every time he came back from war to the crossroad, he saw his dog, Taz, there, his best friend. One time, he took a wife who bore him a child, and he had to go away to war. He came back one time, and he didn't see Taz at the crossroads. And that was strange. So he goes through the threshold into the courtyard, and there he sees Taz. But something is wrong with Taz. He's on the ground. He's not really moving. He's low to the ground. And there's this weird color to his fur. Taz leads him into the courtyard, into the castle, into a room where the bassinet was at for the baby. And there's blood all around the bassinet. The warrior knows exactly what happened. He takes his sword and he kills his best friend Taz. And then he hears a noise. He lifts the lid of the bassinet, and there he sees his infant baby, alive and well. And next to the bassinet, there's a rabid wolf that Taz had killed. He drops his sword, never picks it up again. He picks up Taz, he takes Taz out to the courtyard, past the threshold, to the crossroads, and he buries him. Builds a nice monument for his best friend. And every day for the rest of his life, he goes out to the crossroads and he asks his friend for forgiveness. The sword of justice has the ability to save the innocent. When used with care and responsibility. When used recklessly, it has the ability to harm the innocent. Alicia Andrews is innocent of every count, every lesser included, every crime that she is on trial for today. Perception is not reality. The perception of the detectives in this case was certainly not reality. The state sees Alicia as some gangster queen pin. They see her as someone who has red hair, bright red hair, bad tattoos, who hangs out with gang bangers, gang members, gang associates, an individual who's cold and heartless. But perception is not reality. What do you see? Alicia Andrews is an individual, a young individual, a young woman. She's well-spoken, she's mild-mannered, she's brave, she's strong. And she's a respectable young woman, as you saw when she took the stand. She is not a gang member. She is not a gang associate. And that was clear from the evidence in this case, from every detective that testified. The Jacksonville sheriff's officers testified. She is not a gang member. She is not a gang associate. She isn't. It doesn't matter how many pictures they show, the state shows, right? In fact, I love this exhibit. I love this exhibit. I love this exhibit. I love this exhibit. I love these exhibits from 2021. And why do we love these exhibits? Because they embody exactly what the state's case has been about. Absolutely nothing. All of the evidence, now most of it, of this evidence has been about a gang war in Jacksonville for which Alicia Andrews does not take any part in. 98% of the evidence in this case that you saw over the last 2 weeks has to do with all of these individuals, whether it be Quan, whether it be Young and Ace, whether it be 6 Block, whether it be 1200, 2100. You've learned about where Jacksonville gangs live, whether it's on the north side, the east side. You've learned all of these things, certainly beyond a reasonable doubt that there are gangs in Jacksonville, that they kill each other, that they rap about killing each other, but you have not learned a single thing about whether Alicia Andrews intended to kill Charles Jones. From the start of this case, the defense never said anything about a romantic getaway with Alicia Andrews. The word romance never came from the defense. It came from Detective Ramos's perception of what Alicia Andrews told him.
Okay, so members of the jury, I've instructed you numerous times throughout this trial that what the attorneys say is not evidence, and you are not to consider it as such. It is just their opinions as far as what the evidence is and what the evidence means. Ultimately, what the evidence means is solely up to you. Okay? All right, go ahead.
As I was saying,
Alicia Andrews was on a weekend trip.
Is there a way to amplify the sound, Mr. McLemont?
I want to start from the beginning. Alicia Andrews was asked by her boyfriend to inquire about an Airbnb. He doesn't say to her, Alicia, I need you to figure out about an Airbnb so that we can go to Tampa and we can kill Julio. He doesn't say, Alicia, I need you to go and inquire about an Airbnb so that me and 3 of my friends and you can all go hang out in the Airbnb. He doesn't give her any extra information. Sort of similar to how Sean Gathright was not giving Kyla Enright any extra information. No context. That's not how these individuals operate. He just asked her to inquire about an Airbnb, and innocently, Alicia Andrews does that. She gets on Instagram, she sends a text message to someone she knows and asks, do you have an Airbnb available? And the person says to Alicia Andrews, what day do you want the Airbnb for? And Alicia Andrews, not knowing that this is some murder plot, says, the 23rd, or what day do you have available? the first indication that she has no idea that she has to be in Tampa on the 23rd for Julio Fulio. Or else she would not be telling the person that she's inquiring whatever day you have available or what days you have available. The first indication, from the very first piece of evidence that the state has. If the detectives did not have this perception of Alicia Andrews that was flawed, maybe that would have been the first indication that she's innocent. That she did not know what was happening. The second indication from that same transaction is that Alicia Andrews never pressed the issue with this person. In fact, Isaiah Chance and Rashad Murphy, off in their own world, got impatient. And they went ahead and booked the Airbnb without Alicia. Because Alicia is not in the group. And because, like we said in opening statement, Alicia is not in the loop. Simple. The next thing that happens is that on the morning of the trip, what happens? Sean Gathright, Isaiah Chance, they're at Sean Gathright's home. Where's Alicia? Not with the group. Not in the loop. Alicia Andrews is at home. Doing whatever she's doing at home. Isaiah Chance gets to Sean Gathright's house. You can see he has a gun. You can see he gets out of the car with the gun. He puts it in his waistband. He goes inside the house. He and Sean Gathright begin to pack the bags. Moving bags from car to inside the house, or from car to car. They're moving the bags, shuffling the bags. Hours worth of work. Packing, get ready to go. It's only then, after they've done what they're conspiring to do, that they then go and pick up Alicia Andrews. She's not around them to know what they're doing, what they're planning, what they're discussing. She's not. It's simple. That's on camera. Thank the detectives for bringing you that footage. Because if we didn't have it, I wouldn't be able to sit here and tell you that. So Alicia Andrews comes to Sean Gathright's home. When she gets to Sean Gathright's home, she doesn't go inside and say hi to him or his parents or anyone who's inside. She doesn't do any of that. She waits in the car, like Isaiah Chance tells her to do. She waits there until the other car pulls up. She gets out of one car, she gets in another, and then she takes off. Mind you, this is the third car that she's been in for that day, the third one. Because the first car was from her home to the place where Isaiah Chance picked her up. The second was Isaiah Chance's BMW to the home. And the third is this Impala that she's not familiar with to get down to Tampa. She gets to Tampa with her boyfriend and with Sean Gathright. And at that time, as the evidence is clear, there is no Rashad Murphy, there is no Davion Murphy at the Airbnb. At the Airbnb. So she goes inside of the Airbnb, and we'll reverse a little bit about that whole front door, back door issue. But she goes inside, and Davion Murphy and Rashad Murphy are not there yet. They're just not. And when she's asked about whether they're there when she gets there, and she says no, it's the truth. By their own data. She goes upstairs, and she's in the room. And at some point in time, these four men, they leave her at the Airbnb. And they go on their own mission. Leaving her out of this group. Out of the loop. So they leave her at the Airbnb, and she's not being texted to find out where Julio Fulio is. They're not asking her to DM Julio Fulio. There's no efforts by Alicia Andrews to reach out to anyone to figure out where Julio Fulio is, where his crew is at, where he might be partying. Nothing like that. Alicia Andrews is back at the Airbnb looking for food after she was abandoned by her boyfriend. Looking for Pizza Hut, which she can barely afford, and then ultimately has to settle for McDonald's. So we'll talk about Alicia Andrews' arrival at the Airbnb for a little bit.
In order to get in, you have to put in a code, and that code gets tracked on the app. I spoke to the
The detectives in this case were sure, 100% sure, that Alicia Andrews opened that front door with a code and let everyone else in through the back. Because as their theory, their perception would have it, is that Alicia Andrews is the cover for them. And so that was their perception, and so every piece of evidence that they looked at after that had to be that way. So this first piece of evidence, they see Alicia Andrews on the camera at the Airbnb, and they say, well, the reason why she's the only one on camera is because she opened the door and she let everyone else in through the back. And what kind of sense would it make if everyone is involved, everyone's conspiring together? What kind of sense would it make for Alicia Andrews to know that there's a camera at the front door and for her to sacrifice herself for a group of men that she's never even met before? To go to the front door of the Airbnb, stare the camera in the face, and put her identity out there. What kind of sense would that make? It would not make any sense. Alicia Andrews is not even concerned with the camera. You can see that from the video. You can see it. She doesn't look at the camera. She's not staring it down. She's not worried about it.
I'm in the car, you don't remember, and then you took it
I'll
over.
tell you, I follow you.
Okay. And in order to get in, you have to put in a code, and that code gets tracked on the app. I spoke to the owner of the Airbnb. Nobody else went in. How did they get in?
I'm not sure.
Did you let them in another door? Is it possible you could have opened the back door?
No.
What did Detective Ramos say? He said he spoke to the owner of the Airbnb. And so he's confident that he knows what he's talking about because he spoke to the owner. We spoke to the owner as well in court, in trial. And after he actually spoke to the owner, after he actually got the log in this case, the log, after he actually received it, a month or two prior to trial, I can't remember the date, he then realized that he was wrong. But that's not the only thing that Detective Ramos has been wrong about. It's not the only thing that the state has been wrong about in this case. But with the information that he did not have, with the video that he did have, he arrested Alicia Andrews on bad information. Without the log, without it, it is so evident that just by looking at the camera, Alicia Andrews never put in any code. It's evident because she knocks on the door. Why would Alicia Andrews knock on the door if she was the first person there and she had some code to put in to the Airbnb? She wouldn't. She would put in the code. She didn't put in a code because she knew somebody was already inside. So without the locking log, the Detective Ramos, should have known that there was no way that she was putting in a code to get in that front door because it's on video. But his perception led him down a different road. His perception was not reality. The door, as you can see, hinge opened. She goes in, and someone's inside says, "My bad."
Okay.
But it wasn't until a month before trial that Detective Ramos realized he messed up. There's conversation, argument from the state that because Alicia Andrews didn't park in those two front parking spaces in front of the Airbnb, that's some consciousness of guilt. First off, Alicia Andrews is not driving the car. She's not driving the vehicle. Much less does Alicia Andrews know which parking spots are assigned to the Airbnb unit, if they are even assigned. We heard no evidence that the parking spaces at the Airbnb are assigned to anyone. That those two spaces in front of it, right in front, are particularly for the individuals that rent that Airbnb. There's no evidence of that. Don't forget that. And she's not driving the car. So if Isaiah Chance or Sean Gathright parks on the side of the home, the Airbnb, she's going along with what they're doing. She's not going to tell them to park around the side. She doesn't even know where the door is until she's told where it's at. So, speed up. They leave the Airbnb. When I say they, I mean the four men. They leave the Airbnb, leave Alicia inside. When they don't see any sign or trace of Julio Fulio at Teasers, what do? Here comes Sean Gathright. Sean Gathright says, I am going to text Kyla Enright, my girlfriend, and I'm going to see if she can get me the location for Julio Fulio. This is part 2 of their plan, or plan B. It's clear, because if Kyla Enright was a part of their plan the entire time, she would have been on point before they got there. It's clear that he's pivoting. He says, I need y'all text Fat Boy. Kyla Enright says, about what? If she was in on any plan, if she had any idea what was going down, she wouldn't be asking him about what. He says, hey sis, I need you to text Fat Boy and tell him you're trying to pull up and you're trying to see him tonight. This is not a well thought out, orchestrated plan that the state would have you believe. These individuals are just flying by it, just trying to figure it out as they go. He know I'm gone. I've been FaceTiming him while I'm out. Sean Gathright says he in Tampa right now, but make it seem like you don't know he here or there. He at a B&B with 6. Be like, where you at? I want to pull up. I'm drunk. Then he says, never mind, at 12:39, for whatever reason. He's texting her these things. And then she writes back to him and says, we at Tier the Club? You want to come to the B&B with us? ? She thinks he might be where she's at, in a different city. She has no idea what Sean Gathright is texting her for or really about. But she's responding to him, innocently responding to him. He's trying to use her to commit a murder. And she has no idea. These individuals are very good at concealing their intent, at concealing what they're trying to do, and they're good at doing it to the people that they're closest to. Sean Gathright, his mother, and his grandmother have zero clue about what Sean Gathright does in his spare time. Zero. And they live with him. His mother lives with him. That's his grandmother's baby. You cannot tell Sean Gathwright's grandmother anything about her baby. They have no idea. She says, who B&B? And he says 6. Fools. It's his B-Day and Fat Boy with him. She says, not here in Jacksonville? And he says, nah, they in Tampa. So whoever is texting from Kyla Enright's phone has no idea that it's 1, Fulio's birthday, 2, that Fulio is not in Jacksonville. And so is it really that difficult to understand that not everybody is looking at Fulio or watching his page or knows what his birthday is or knows what club he might be at? It's not difficult to believe that, to understand that, to comprehend that. Because it's here in your face. And this is not Alicia Andrews. But Alicia Andrews is in the same position because she doesn't follow his Instagram page like that. She may press the button. Fulio has millions of followers. But it's clear from the evidence that she wasn't searching his page at or around this time. It's clear because the state had evidence that Rashad Murphy was using his phone to search Fulio on Instagram. That was clear. If the state had evidence that Alicia Andrews was searching for Fulio on Instagram, they would have rolled out the red carpet, put that evidence up there on the stand, and presented it to you all. There is absolutely zero evidence that Alicia Andrews knew that Charles Jones was going to be in Tampa that weekend. Zero evidence. When Sean Gathwright hears back from Kyla Enright, and Kyla Enright says, he's at Beezer's or something like that. She meant teasers. But Sean Gathwright realizes that he's not getting anywhere with Kyla Enright because he's getting the same information that he already knew. So they have to pivot from that plan as well. So at that time, Isaiah Chance says, well, I might be able to figure this out. Alicia Andrews has a phone that maybe we can use. And you want to know why it's so obvious that Isaiah Chance was using Alicia Andrews? I mean, but for like the obvious detective realizing that in the interrogation. You want to know why it's so obvious outside of that? They don't need Alicia Andrews. They don't need her. You saw the photographs in Rashad Murphy's iCloud dump, which has a bag sitting in front of him with a burner phone or a prepaid phone. These individuals know how to get prepaid phones. They go to the store, they buy them, like Rashad Murphy did at the Walmart, and they're untraceable. But Isaiah Chance put his girlfriend's phone up as tribute. And she had no idea what was going on. Over 12,000 GPS coordinates from her phone for that weekend. 12,000. The others had very minimal. If you remember the testimony from Tom Pullen. Very minimal. I mean, I believe Sean Gathwright may have had 70 or someone else had 47. Alicia Andrews had 12,000. She had no idea that she should be either turning off her phone or doing anything to conceal the GPS points. She had no idea because she wasn't in the group, because she had no role in this conspiracy, in this murder plot. So Isaiah Chance says, okay, you all go in another car, and I'll go with Alicia. I'll take her in the Chevy Cruze, or the silver Chevy Cruze, and you all go in the bigger car, the Impala. And so he does come back. He gives her some McDonald's. He deals with her hunger very minimally, right? McDonald's, some chicken nuggets. And then he takes her to Teasers under this guise that he's taking her out. And does she know what he's actually doing? Absolutely not. There's absolutely zero evidence that she knows what he's doing. So he takes her to Teasers, and he's trying to use her phone, and he does use her phone. And the state's version of the story is that she is cover for him outside of this club. And while he may have been using her, it makes absolutely zero sense that Alicia Andrews is cover for him. And Alicia Andrews is not an invisibility cloak. Standing next to Alicia Andrews does not make him less noticeable. If anything, it would make him more noticeable. Robert Howard knows who Isaiah Chance is with or without the medical mask. So if Robert Howard saw Isaiah Chance outside as he testified, he would, I guess, let his friends know Isaiah Chance is around and he's in the vicinity. If Robert Howard saw Isaiah Chance outside with a mask on, he would certainly let his friends know that Isaiah Chance is outside. Certainly. The mask itself, that's not helping. That's not concealing anything. If anything, that would make it worse. So when Alicia Andrews says that she's pregnant, and then when she went out to the club, she decided to put on a mask, it's because she's pregnant and doesn't want to inhale smoke from all these people. She's not wearing the mask for COVID purposes. Yes, COVID, you wanted to social distance. You wanted to not be around somebody, so you put the mask on. Even if it was just a couple of people, maybe you'd put the mask on. And then, as time went on, people got lax. They wouldn't put the mask on if it was around people that, a couple people. They would only put it on outside in the public. And remember, this is 2024. It's not the neck of COVID. It's not March 2020 when COVID started, or a little bit after that. Alicia Andrews is wearing the mask because of her pregnancy and because she doesn't want to inhale smoke. And she had just been to McDonald's on a McDonald's run. And during that McDonald's run, somebody right next to her started smoking. And she wasn't going to tell Davion Murphy to put it out. Somebody she doesn't know. This big individual in what she believes was his car. She wasn't going to tell him to put it out. But when they left McDonald's, she went and she got her face mask and they went to the club. Outside of Teasers, in the video that you see, that you've seen enough times, I won't play it over for you, but outside of Teasers, you see Alicia Andrews arrive at Teasers. Her boyfriend is driving the vehicle. They get out. He asks her for the phone. She gives it to him. She unlocks it. He tries to make a call. The only logical explanation for what happened when he tried to make that call is that the other person did not pick up the phone. Why is that logical, and why is it the only logical explanation? Is because a few minutes after that, he's texting Sean Gathright to pick up the effing phone. Twice. You do that when somebody does not answer the phone. So when they're outside at Teasers and they're on video camera and you see him with the phone there, yes, he's probably trying to call and it's probably ringing. But the reason why he texts a few minutes later to pick up the phone is because the phone didn't connect. And the call detail records at 2:31 show that there was a call that went out and a call that did not connect. It didn't connect. So whatever the state wants you to think that Alicia overheard in that time, there was nothing to overhear. And Isaiah Chance says, okay, well, this club is packed, let's go. Alicia Andrews is like, all right, whatever. She gets in the passenger seat. They go to another area off of Hillsborough. This is what the detective testified to. And for some reason, the detective wasn't able to track down the location on Hillsborough where Alicia Andrews was at, but he was able to track down the other locations. He was able to track down the McDonald's that she went to and got cameras there. He was able to track down teasers. He was able to track down Truth 18. He was able to track down the USF parking lot pole camera. And he was able to track down Tesla cameras, Home 2 Suites cameras, all of these cameras, except for the ones on Hillsborough. And Alicia Andrews testified that she was at another place called Players Club. And that that's the location where she went up, where I guess Isaiah Chance went up to the bouncer, asked how much it cost to get in, gave them too high of a price. He's like, okay, let's try to go somewhere else. And Alicia Andrews, there's no Charles Jones at this second place. There's no Julio Fulio at this second place. And the reason why there's no camera footage there, the reason why that place was never really discovered is because it doesn't fit the narrative. Because Charles Jones was not there at that other place. So if Charles Jones is never there, the detectives aren't trying hard enough to figure out what's going on in that area, why they went over there, whether there's any cameras over there, because Charles Jones never made it to that location. He was never slated to go there. So they keep repeating over and over throughout the trial, you went to the only places where Charles Jones was at, the only two clubs he was at. That's not the only places where Alicia Andrews was at. So from there, they get in a car, they go to Truth 18. But on the way, I guess the GPS coordinates say they went to Teasers, and then they go to Truth 18. The times would show that if they did go back to Teasers, that Charles Jones was already gone by the time they made it back to Teasers, if I'm not mistaken. So then, somehow, Isaiah Chance takes her to Truth 18. Somehow he figures out that he should be at Truth 18. They go to Truth 18. He's again using her phone. He's on FaceTime with someone. He is showing the person the Truth 18 building. And he takes a picture, and Alicia Andrews says, I heard him talking to an individual. I don't know who he was talking to. But I heard him say, this place is packed, and where are y'all at? Isaiah Chance is a smart individual. He doesn't want to tell Alicia Andrews what's going on. He's not going to say on the phone exactly what he's doing. He has a way that he can communicate with somebody on the other phone, on the other end, without telling Alicia Andrews enough information for her to figure out what is going on. It's simple. Where y'all at? And they may say where they're at. And he's telling them where he's at. And if they're in the same group and they're on the same page, they clearly know that they should probably be at this location. Because they've already had this conversation. They've already had these discussions. He doesn't have to say much. She's following him around. At some point they get back in the car, and he starts to drive erratic. And Alicia Andrews said that this was a different behavior. He was acting strange. He was acting funny. And he drives on that USF pole camera. You see he comes down this way. They make the right at the light. They make a U-turn, and they make a right into USF. And they're over there for 5 minutes. That part of it is off camera. I don't know if there was another pole camera over there that Detective Ramos could have picked up, but it's off camera. Isaiah Chance gets out of the car, just stops the car in sort of like the middle of the road, gets out of the car, takes the phone with him, and is out talking, out of earshot of Alicia Andrews. They stay in that area for about 5 minutes, then he gets back in the car, runs a red light, goes into the Home 2 Suites parking lot, is in there for less than a minute, goes in, circles around, and leaves out. And why does he leave out of the parking lot before anything happens? Because he doesn't want Alicia Andrews to see what happened. He doesn't want Alicia Andrews to witness what happened. He kept everything away from Alicia Andrews so that she wouldn't know what was happening. They get back to the Airbnb, and these other individuals are already there. They're already there. whether they left their guns inside of whatever car they drove there in, whether they packed them up before Alicia got there. When she got there, she went inside, she just saw these individuals. Like she said, they looked disoriented, they smelled, and she decided to just go upstairs. And anytime that she did come downstairs and they were talking, anytime that she did come downstairs, they would stop talking because she's not in the group. And it makes complete sense, because why would some strangers, Davion and Rashad Murphy, why would they include Alicia Andrews in a plot to kill an individual they don't even know Alicia Andrews? Why would you include someone you do not know in a plot to kill a famous person? But Isaiah Chance, he wanted to bring Alicia Andrews along, and whatever he had to work out with them, with these men or whatever, he worked out with them, and she was there. Common sense, if we're talking common sense, would have you know that he and the other men probably had a conversation. This is my girl, look, don't worry about her. I'll keep her out of it. And she was kept out of it. Alicia Andrews is never seen with any guns on any of these cameras. Alicia Andrews is not carrying any of these big, heavy bags as much as the state wants you to believe that she is. She carries her bags, and then the one time she's carrying the pink bag is when she puts it in the Uber. And that pink bag clearly does not have heavy ammunition and rifles in it. Clearly. When I asked Detective Ramos, will those rifles fit in the pink bag? Instead of just saying no, because that's the truthful and honest answer, he says, I don't know. I don't know how big the pink bag is, but we all can see the pink bag on the video. We can see how small it is, the size of it in relation to Alicia Andrews. The bag doesn't fit rifles in it. It doesn't. The rifles, you saw them for yourselves. You had Amara Drew stand right in front of you, show you the rifle, show you the safety on the rifle, show you how it works, what it does, why it does what it does. The brass catchers had an entire class on these rifles. So use that information. It's evidence. It may not be evidence against Alicia for this crime, but it's some evidence. And you can use that evidence to show that there's no way that those rifles could fit in that pink bag. And I don't know why the pink bag became such a big thing in this trial. Because there's no evidence, and the state agrees that they don't know what's in the pink bag. There's no relevance to showing this pink bag. It's just a pink bag. Probably dirty laundry inside of it. So, when you deliberate, there's some things that you should know that Alicia did not know. Alicia did not know to go through some back door at the Airbnb to conceal her face on the camera. That never made sense from the beginning. Alicia Andrews did not know who was going on this trip. She didn't know Davion Murphy and Rashad Murphy were going to join them. She didn't even know Sean Gathright was going to be joining her and Isaiah Chance on this trip. Isaiah Chance said, I'm going to Tampa. She said, I want to go. He said, you can come. He meets with Alicia Andrews. They go to SeanGathright's house. She says, why are we here? He says, oh, we're going to ride with Sean Gathright. She's like, all right, whatever. She didn't know who was going on the trip. Alicia Andrews didn't know who was on the other end of the phone calls that Isaiah Chance was making. She did not know who was on the other end of the text messages that Sean Gathright sent out. She didn't even know that Sean Gathright was sending out any text messages to an individual named Kyla Enright. Alicia Andrews did not know that she should stay off her phone, that she should turn it off. That's evidenced by the fact that she had over 12,000 GPS points, data points on her phone. She did not even know who Davion and Rashad Murphy were, if that wasn't clear throughout this trial. Didn't know them. Barely knew Sean Gathright. Met him one time at a family gathering. And when you go to these gatherings and there are a lot of people that you do not know, it is difficult to remember who was even at the gathering. You see a bunch of people, you grab a plate of food, you go outside. People you could probably have seen and come in contact with during the gathering and not realize later on, a year later, 6 months later, whenever, that you even met this person before. She didn't stay there for an extended period of time. She wasn't hanging out with Sean Gathright in the house. You heard what she said. Her boyfriend does not like her around other men, his friends, because he's controlling, he's possessive, he's jealous, he's manipulative. So he doesn't want her around other men that he knows, or other men that he doesn't know, for that matter. And that's evidenced by the text messages showing that he doesn't even want her posting certain things on social media, telling her to delete it. And she does what he says. Alicia Andrews, like I said earlier, didn't know that there were guns in some of these bags. And is that so hard to digest? No. The Uber driver handled the bags. He was helping with the bags when he dropped them off in Jacksonville. He didn't know that there were any guns in the bags. SeanGathright's grandmother watched Sean Gathright transfer bags from one car to the next, and she didn't know that there were guns or ammunition in the bags. She didn't know that the Forerunner would be stopped and they'd find ammunition, casings, and all these different things in it. She never saw any of that. She was standing right next to him when he switched the items from the vehicles, standing right next to him. Alicia Andrews did not know where she was going in Tampa, except for, with the exception of the McDonald's, but she asked to go there. But she didn't know which club she was going to, just like any of the other women that testified. Alright, do 6 Block and ATK get along?
I don't know. I'm a girl.
When you say you're a girl, what do you mean by that?
I don't get into
Object, may we approach?
Okay.
Yes.
Then
Please stop.
You heard the testimony for yourself. There were women that got up and they said, I was just a passenger. I was just following Fulio around. I was just following my boyfriend around, or these other people around. All the women that testified in the state's case in chief, all of them said the same thing. I am just a girl. I was just following the individuals. I don't know where I was at. I had never been to Tampa before. I'm not familiar with this area. I don't know the names of the places that I went. I don't know where they were at. I was just following people around. Alicia Andrews' phone came up in this trial. Alicia Andrews' phone was broken several times. Alicia Andrews' phone was never recovered. The detectives in this case never searched her home because they claimed they never had probable cause for a search warrant, which is a problem all by itself. But if you don't have a phone And an individual is supposed to have used this phone in a murder plot. Surely you could get a search warrant to search where that individual lives. And that never happened. Never happened. The Text Now application that Alicia Andrews was using. The Text Now application, as we heard, is an application that you can use on an iPhone either when you don't have service or if somebody blocks you from regular service, you can use the Text Now application to text. And Alicia Andrews would use the Text Now application to text Isaiah Chance. Specifically around the time of this murder plot, she was doing it because he had blocked her on the regular text messaging app, and so she was using the Text Now app to text him back and forth. And you see the text messages that were recovered from the iCloud or the phone or wherever in evidence. There are text messages as recent as June 17, 2024. When Alicia Andrews got a new phone, when she got a new phone, her iCloud was still there. And they were able to pull from the iCloud. No evidence that Alicia Andrews knew of any murder plot. No evidence that Alicia Andrews intended to kill Charles Jones. No evidence that she conspired with any of these individuals. Alicia Andrews had messages that went back years. And they have them. Thousands of messages. Dig all the way back to 2020, 2021. Back when she was in high school, talking to her best friend at the age of 17. They went all the way back. And the best that they could find is that Alicia Andrews in 2021, when she was 17 years old, told her best friend that she thought Charles Jones was ugly and that he needed to die. And why did she say he needed to die? Charles Jones, as you all heard, was an individual who caused a lot of havoc in Jacksonville. Does that mean she wants him dead? Does that mean that she was going to actually kill him? She formed it in her mind at the age of 17 that she was going to one day group up together with 4 individuals, go to Tampa and kill him? No, that's not what it means. It's an ignorant comment at a very young age. It's an ignorant comment at a very young age. And because Charles Jones, Julio Fulio, is causing so much havoc in the city, there's only so many ways that he could stop doing that he could stop causing the killing, the back and forth, because that is what he was doing. Perpetuating it is either he stops making the music, or he decides that, hey, I'm going to make music that is actually good for the community. Or what happened? He's perpetuating this stuff. They all are, all these people in these gangs, perpetuating it back and forth. And it actually becomes reality for them. Because they're talking about it day in and day out. And they're going back and forth with each other, day in and day out. But whether it be for money, whether it be for views, whether it be for clicks, it becomes their reality because they speak it into existence. And this is a tragic situation. All of those boys, those men that died, I don't care if it's ATK, 1200, 2100, it's completely tragic. This entire gang war that they have going on in Jacksonville, or so they call it. Individuals dying, going to prison. I mean, Alicia Andrews is really just a regular girl. And she knows people that she went to school with in middle school or high school that have died, gotten shot on school campus. These things aren't regular. These things aren't normal. This is a terrible situation that these young men are in Jacksonville. And you heard all about it throughout the trial. It's terrible, it's tragic, but it has nothing to do with whether Alicia Andrews intended to go to Tampa and kill Charles Jones. Nothing. All of what you saw was a smokescreen. All of what you saw was an attempt by the state, by the detectives, to put Alicia Andrews in a box, to put Alicia Andrews in this circle of people, birds of a feather. And it was an attempt to get you to just say, oh, she must be guilty because she hangs out with these people, or she knows this person, this will go crazy individual. That there was really no evidence that she really spoke to him. She spoke about him in a text message. Okay. She spoke about Robert Howard too. She doesn't know him. He doesn't know her. She spoke about Bibby. She doesn't know him. He doesn't know her. She was just speaking about things that she had seen in either real life or on social media. She doesn't know these individuals, but she knows of them. Beyond and to the exclusion of every reasonable doubt. That is the standard of proof in this case. That is the standard by which the state has to prove this case. They have to prove that Alicia Andrews committed both crimes beyond a reasonable doubt. And if you ask yourselves whether at the close of evidence you felt or you knew that the state proved this case beyond a reasonable doubt, you can almost guarantee that that was not the situation. So let's talk about reasonable doubt. The judge is going to read instructions to you and tell you where you can find reasonable doubt. And I have an acronym for it. It's called CLE. You find reasonable doubt in the conflicts in the evidence, in the lack of evidence, and the evidence itself. Is there really enough evidence in this case? Think about the conflicts in the evidence, the issues that the detectives had. Think about whether there were any conflicts in Alicia Andrews' testimony. Alicia Andrews did not have to take the stand, but she did. And she told her story, and you can't teach that. It either is the truth or it's not. Alicia Andrews showed you that she has nothing to hide from you all. Nothing. This is not a police interrogation room. This is not a room that she's being pressured by two detectives in some small closed-off area. This is a courtroom. And she came in here and told you the truth about everything. And as much as the state pushed and pushed and pushed and tried to get her caught up in some lie or some story, Alicia Andrews never, not once, went impeached. Not once. So is there any conflict in Alicia Andrews' testimony? No, not at all. 100% flawless. In this case, there is a clear lack of evidence, and it doesn't matter how many times the state says that they have overwhelming evidence in this case. They do not. The only thing that was overwhelming about the evidence in this case is the fact that there's a gang war going on in Jacksonville. That's it. Overwhelmingly, everybody is aware that people are dying back and forth because of drill rap music in Jacksonville. That is the overwhelming evidence in this case. This case is not about some October 7th, 2023 shooting. It's not. A shooting that's still under investigation almost 2 years later. A shooting in which Jacksonville Sheriff's Office has not made any arrests. A shooting in which there's no probable cause to arrest anyone. But they claim that Isaiah Chance and Sean Gathright are the suspects in that case. But they haven't been arrested for anything. After 2 years of an open case. And that case is being used to tie Alicia Andrews into this case, and she has nothing to do with the October 7th shooting of Charles Jones. You saw text messages between Alicia Andrews and Isaiah Chance around that same time period, from 2023. And what is Isaiah Chance telling Alicia Andrews? That he doesn't want to be around her right now, he needs some time because his friend has died. She's not even around him at that time. But somehow, some way, that information, that evidence is in this trial. It's being used to try to convict Alicia for these charges. And the two have nothing to do with each other. The town center shooting has nothing to do with this case. The fact that some person named 23 died, that youngin' Ace got shot, that his brother was there and his brother got shot as well, has nothing to do with whether Alicia Andrews knew that her boyfriend and these other individuals were going to Tampa to kill Charles Jones. It has nothing to do with anything. This town center shooting, the Rains shooting, the one that happened in 2018 with Robert Howard, has nothing to do with whether Alicia Andrews intended to kill Charles Jones or even knew that he was going to die. Nothing. All of this back and forth from 2018 that you've heard, all of it, just think about it. What does it have to do with Alicia Andrews? And over, every witness, witness after witness, didn't know Alicia Andrews, couldn't tell you the relevance of some of the things that the state presented against Alicia Andrews. If this case were against any of Alicia Andrews' co-defendants, it'd be a different story. But this case is against Alicia Andrews. This is state of Florida versus Alicia Andrews, and I would like to stay in that world. Probable cause is a standard. You heard about it in this trial. You need probable cause to make an arrest. You also need probable cause to get a search warrant. It's not reasonable doubt. Reasonable doubt is higher than probable cause. It's also higher than what they call the greater weight of the evidence, which is a little bit over 50%. So if you put your hand on a scale, or if you put a scale up and you put a piece of feather on one scale and it tips it a little bit over, that's the greater weight of the evidence. Reasonable doubt is higher than that. Reasonable doubt is even higher than what they call clear and convincing evidence. It's higher than that. Reasonable doubt, beyond reasonable doubt, is the highest burden in a criminal trial. The highest. And that comes with a great responsibility to the state. They are the individuals who own that burden, who have to hold that burden. And if there's any evidence in this case that you did not see, if there's any evidence that you wish you would have seen, that you feel should have been presented, that you need in order to make a decision, that is all on the state. The defense does not have a burden. The burden never shifts to that side of the room. Never. It remains with the state for the entire case. So if there's any evidence that you wish you would have saw, that you just don't have, that they don't have, it is on the state. every Thanksgiving, there's a grandmother. She would make food. In her kitchen, she'd make this food for her family. She makes the food and she sits at the kitchen counter. She likes to make food with a glass of wine. She takes a sip from the glass of wine and she's making different things. She's seasoning the curry chicken, the brown stew chicken, the oxtail, the dumpling. She's handling it. And as she's taking a sip from this glass of wine, she drops it by accident. She starts to pick up the pieces of the glass and she starts to put them together. So she gets to the very last piece and she realizes she's missing a piece that she cannot find. She looks at the glass, she looks at the food that she's preparing, and not for 1 second, she takes the food, all of it, and she throws it away. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you all need to throw this case away. Alicia Andrews is not guilty of anything. Not first-degree murder, certainly. Not second-degree murder. Not manslaughter. Nothing. Not conspiracy to commit first-degree murder. Absolutely nothing. The state has not proven anything against Miss Andrews, except for the fact that she hung out with a bad boyfriend. Fortunately for Miss Andrews, there are several reasons to doubt. There's enough to go around for everyone. There's no direct evidence showing that Alicia Andrews had any knowledge of a plan to commit the homicide in this case. Alicia Andrews is not a gang member or gang affiliate. All of the evidence that you heard in this case about this gang war has nothing to do with her. Investigators have found no proof that she participated in, planned, or assisted with the homicide in any way. In this case, when questioned by the detectives, Alicia Andrews was truthful about her involvement in this case. Truthful. She gave them the information about herself. She was not going to sit there and convey information about people she did not know, people who could potentially harm her. She was not going to do that. And the detectives started off the conversation, both of them said it. If you don't want to talk about something, you don't have to talk about it. She decided she wasn't going to talk about certain things. The detectives charged Alicia Andrews with first-degree murder on incorrect assumptions that she was some cover, that she was letting people in through the back door to hide their identities. Unlike the other individuals, Alicia Andrews made no attempt to conceal her whereabouts. Her phone was on, fully active. She walked into that Airbnb, the front door camera. No issues. Made no attempts to conceal that. Alicia Andrews never possessed a firearm. All the other individuals in this case had on black. Black, all black. Alicia Andrews went out with her blue jean jacket, her Crocs on. This is not attire to go stalking anyone. This is not the attire to go running around shooting anyone. She went outside, colorful as ever. There's no confession in this case. There's no cooperating witness in this case at all. And there's no physical evidence tying Alicia Andrews to this case. The only evidence that was sent off for any testing was the casings that were left at the scene. 30 casings. And those came back, nothing, no DNA, no evidence. There was other evidence that could have been tested. All the evidence that Sean Gathright had on him, the evidence at Sean Gathwright's mother's house, when I say the evidence that was on Sean Gathright, I mean the evidence in the Forerunner, the ammunition, the guns and whatnot, those things could have been swabbed for DNA, for fingerprints, and had Alicia's fingerprints or DNA been on any of those items, you would know that she must have been involved in some sort of planning. Because as people conspire to do things, and then they conspire to shoot someone with weapons, what do? They pass them around. Things get passed around. You take this gun, you take that gun. There's no evidence of any of that. There's no evidence that any of that stuff was ever analyzed. Not by the ATF, not by Tampa Police Department, not by Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, not by the Gwinnett County Police Department. This was a multi-agency effort. And they presented zero evidence that any of that stuff was analyzed for any DNA or fingerprints. And they did that because, or they didn't do it, because I guess they felt they had a strong enough case without it. And maybe they do for the other individuals, but not for Alicia Andrews, not for an innocent person, not for a person who had no knowledge of this conspiracy, not for a person who had no intent to kill anyone, not for a person who did not commit any acts to kill someone. I want to go over a particular jury instruction, this principal jury instruction. If the defendant helped another person or persons commit or attempt to commit a crime, the defendant is a principal and must be treated as if she had done all the things the other person or persons did if the state proved beyond a reasonable doubt the following two things. So, Alicia Andrews is only treated as if she was one of the shooters in this case, if those two things at the bottom exist. So Alicia Andrews has to intend for the crime to occur. And in addition to that, she has to do some act or say something that was intended to and that did incite, cause, encourage, assist, or advise the other person or persons to actually commit or attempt to commit the crime. So one, she's got to intend for this crime to happen. And where is the evidence of Alicia Andrews' intent for this to happen? None. As much as the state says there's overwhelming evidence, there's a mountain of evidence, where is it? Can you identify it after an entire trial? Intent. It doesn't exist. The second part, the defendant did some act or said something that was intended. Again, you still have to intend. The act that you commit has to be committed with an intent. So if Alicia Andrews gives her phone to her boyfriend, but does not intend for him to use that phone to kill somebody, then she's not guilty. Not just because you give your phone to somebody, or because somebody uses you, means that you're guilty and you should be charged like the people who actually committed the offense, who actually committed the shooting. So this is a very, 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 very important jury instruction for you all to understand completely. The defendant intended the crime to occur, and the defendant did some act. And that act was with the intent that this crime occurred. And the state has neither in this case. I do want to go over second-degree murder. Second-degree murder is a lesser included in this case, right? So on your verdict form, you'll see different boxes that you can check. It'll be first-degree murder, second-degree murder, manslaughter, and not guilty. Alicia Andrews is not guilty of second-degree murder either. Yes, Charles Jones is dead. That's the first element. There's no debate that Charles Jones is dead. So we're not debating that. But that's not how someone gets convicted of second-degree murder. Not just because someone is dead. You have to have some link. So 2, the death was caused by the criminal act of Alicia Andrews. What act did Alicia Andrews do that caused Charles Jones's death? Absolutely nothing. 3, there was an unlawful killing of Charles Jones by an act eminently dangerous to another and demonstrating a depraved mind without regard for life. Alicia Andrews did not commit any acts that caused Charles Jones to die, and therefore she is not guilty also of second-degree murder. The manslaughter. Again, it's similar. Charles Jones is dead. That is the first element, and there's no dispute about that. But there still has to be some link to someone being dead and someone being convicted for that person's death. So either Alicia Andrews intentionally committed an act or acts that caused the death of Charles Jones, or Alicia Andrews intentionally procured an act that caused the death of Charles Jones, or the death of Charles Jones was caused by the culpable negligence of Alicia Andrews. And Alicia Andrews is not guilty of manslaughter either. Alicia Andrews had no idea, not at any point that night, that her boyfriend at the time or that any of his friends intended to kill Charles Jones that night. No evidence of that whatsoever. The state keeps mentioning a consciousness of guilt. That is not an element in this case. Consciousness of guilt does not equal an intent to kill. Consciousness of guilt does not equal an act which is required under the jury instructions. Consciousness of guilt is a term that has no bearing in your decision.
Your Honor, misstatement of law.
Again, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, these are just the opinions of the attorneys in their closing arguments. You will be given the law, and you are to follow the law that I give you. Okay, thank you.
And as the judge gives the law at the end of this case, when the judge reads the jury instructions, I want you to look for anywhere where it says consciousness of guilt. The state is begging you to ignore the law and find Alicia Andrews guilty without any evidence of it. They're asking you to speculate every step of the way, to just believe that there must have been something out there that they couldn't find that would have Alicia Andrews convicted of this crime. Speculate, assume, make assumptions. Just find her guilty without any evidence. You heard the detective from the ATF task force. He testified in this case. He testified about how the federal government, he works for the ATF, the federal government did not get referred this case.
Objection, Your Honor.
What's the objection?
Judge relevance.
Again, members of the jury, you will rely upon your own recollection of what the evidence was in this case, and you'll take that recollection and apply it to the law that I give you in reaching your verdict.
The ATF agent testified that the feds were not referred this case.
I'm sorry, what did you just say?
I said the ATF agent testified that the feds were not referred this case.
Okay, well, that is not relevant to this, to
He
your,
testified to it, Judge.
I understand, but it should have been objected to, so.
In this case, the state has the burden. And because the state has the burden in this case, they get the last word. So they get a rebuttal closing argument. So after I sit down, the state gets up, and they get to argue one more time. The defense doesn't get to say anything after that. But we've said enough. This trial has been 2 weeks long. It's been a very important trial for everyone involved, especially for Ms. Andrews. Today is the most important day of her life. And we ask, just as we asked in voir dire in jury selection, that you treat it fairly. There is one place that you cannot take away someone's voice, and that's inside of a courtroom. I have an innocent individual's life in my hands, and so do each and every one of you. When the state gets an opportunity to argue to you, you should be listening to where the evidence beyond a reasonable doubt is that Alicia Andrews knew that Charles Jones was even going to be in Tampa. That Alicia Andrews knew beyond a reasonable doubt that Charles Jones was going to die. That her co-defendants had that intent. There is no evidence, much less evidence beyond a reasonable doubt. These individuals did not need Alicia Andrews. She was not some sort of cover, some invisibility cloak for them. The state mentioned in opening statement that Alicia Andrews was used by Isaiah Chance to look less threatening, to provide some cover. None of that ever bore out during the trial. During opening statement, the prosecutor stood before you and showed you videos of Isaiah Chance packing with Sean Gathright. Then he said that Alicia Andrews was picked up and that Isaiah Chance returned to the party with his contribution. He was referring to a gun, and he showed you on the screen there a gun, and he showed you how the gun was sticking out with the extended magazine and the dust cover of the gun. And it was almost as if he was saying that Alicia Andrews was with Isaiah Chance when he had this gun out. Because if that was the case, she would know that there's guns involved. She would know. But that wasn't the case, because none of that happened in Alicia Andrews' presence. The prosecutor in this case, in opening statement, said twice that Alicia Andrews was driving, or he alluded to the fact that Alicia Andrews was driving a vehicle in this case. And at no point in time is there any evidence that Alicia Andrews drove any vehicle. There is evidence to the contrary. Alicia Andrews doesn't drive. She doesn't make the decisions. She's not in control of the vehicle. And Alicia Andrews is not in control, or was not in control, of what happened to Charles Jones. So when you go back into the jury room and you deliberate, you've seen all the evidence. There is no more evidence to show you. Because you've seen all the evidence, you know all the facts, there you know that there is only one verdict for each count. There's only one verdict, and it's the same verdict for each count. The same verdict. That verdict is that Alicia Andrews, as it relates to the charges of first-degree murder and conspiracy to commit first-degree murder, is that Alicia Andrews is not guilty, not guilty, not guilty. Thank you.